The pikemen crouched over their weapons, as if they expected the Huguenots to fight, and they moved into the church with relentless force. Pastor Foudray stood behind his pulpit in quiet dignity. A pikeman motioned to him to step down, but the pastor did not move. The pikeman drew his wooden shaft back in a threatening gesture, but a disturbance at the back of the building made him pause. A captain pushed his way to the front and turned to the congregation. He drew his sword halfway out of its sheath, but the absolute silence on the part of the Huguenots seemed to wilt his fierceness. He scowled and began to pace up and down. "This is a den of iniquity," he began, and turned to glare at the pastor. At that moment, a ray of sunlight struck the gold letters of the 10 Commandments hanging on the wall. The captain choked, lowered his eyes, and threw back his shoulders. Then he began to shout, "This house of desecration must be destroyed until not one sign of it remains. Stone by stone, with your own hands, you will remove this work of the devil." The captain motioned to his men. "If there's anything here you would like, go ahead and take it. Otherwise, we'll burn everything." The soldiers began to strip the room. One man jabbed his pike into the tablet with the 10 Commandments, and then cut the cord that held the tablet to the wall. 2 of his companions carried it outside. Others wrenched the pulpit from its place, staggering under the weight. The pastor's Bible fell to the floor. A pikeman plunged his pike through it and bore it out ahead of him, as if the Bible were something loathsome. "Everybody outside!" The captain emphasized his command with a wave of his sword. No one moved. "No one will be hurt if you obey. We promise safety." The soldiers herded the congregation into the front yard, where a fire was already blazing. The men threw the pulpit, the tablet, the Bible, and the congregation's hymn books into the blaze. Soldiers ran in and out of the building, bringing papers and ledgers. "The church certificates!" Dr. Maurice, the Huguenot historian, wrung his hands. Pastor Foudray looked dazed as he watched the papers burn. "Those are our baptismal records. They can never be duplicated." For a long time, the only sounds were the crackle of flames and the exclamations of the soldiers. Pierre watched in horrified silence. A group of city officials hurried through the archway, the mayor in the lead, puffing from his exertion. The captain greeted him. "The way is now open for the extermination of the Huguenots, if necessary." The mayor fingered the lace at his throat nervously. "Why have these heretics been allowed to worship so long?" the captain asked. The mayor was apologetic. "Under the edict, they had the right." "The edict is revoked. If they try to worship now, we'll use the sword." "The Huguenots have brought a lot of business to La Rochelle," the mayor said with a timid glance at the congregation. "Conversion by force will make hypocrites, not believers, will it not?" The captain ignored the first remark. "We'll have believers. Don't you know that the king has said, to bring back all my subjects to Catholic unity, I would readily with one hand cut off the other." Dr. Maurice stepped up to the 2 men. Regal bearing as of a man used to authority, checked the captain's gesture of impatience. "The Huguenots have been loyal to the king. Their loyalty has been unquestioned. They are good soldiers, too." "Heretics are never loyal." The captain did not speak rudely. "But as for being soldiers, we'll harass the inhabitants of La Rochelle until they consume both their gunpowder and their bullets." Dr. Maurice continued. "Does not Monsieur the captain believe heretics should be led to the church by the hand, not the hair?" The captain snapped out his reply. "The sword shall lead them." All the time the officials talked, the Huguenots kept the same silence as before. Pierre saw Father beckon to Pastor Foudray. "You must leave tonight, Pastor," he said. "Tonight? How can I? It's impossible. I cannot yield either to consternation or cowardice." The pastor's face worked with emotion. "Pastor Foudray, at the slightest excuse, the dragoons may start murdering and pillaging. You see what it's like already. Do not chance your family's safety." "But how can we leave?" "Bring your family to the port tonight," Father said. Do not bring any belongings, but wear all the clothes you can put on. We do not want anything suspicious to start the dragoons questioning you. I'll hide you in the cellar until the ship is ready to sail." Pastor Foudray appeared dazed yet attentive. "Tonight? Is it really tonight?" "Yes. The dragoons will be quartered by evening." "Ah, yes, the dragonade. My grandfather spoke of such things long ago." The pastor bowed his head. "If this is the yoke, God's will be done. We'll be there tonight, somehow. Thank you." Pierre watched the mayor argue with the captain. "He has courage, hasn't he, Father?" Father answered with a wry smile. "He has good reason to be courageous. He has invested much money in the cargo my ships bring back." A dragoon came up and saluted the captain. "Shall we start converting?" The captain nodded. "Line up against the wall," the dragoons commanded the Huguenots. The simple command struck terror in Pierre, such as he had never felt before. His tongue felt thick, and he panted hard as though he had been running. "Are they going to kill us?" Claude whispered. Pierre tried to answer, but no words came out. A Huguenot woman called out to the dragoons, "You promised us safety." The captain answered her in a contemptuous tone, "Faith need not be kept with heretics." The leader of the dragoons stopped in front of the cobbler's wife, who rocked her baby in her arms. "I want to see a show of hands from all of you who wish to be converted to Catholicism. Do you?" he asked, addressing the cobbler's wife. "No, of course not." The dragoon unsheathed his sword and waved it in front of the baby's face. The mother's eyes widened and she shrank back, shielding the baby from the sword. "Are you willing to be a Catholic?" the dragoon asked. The baby cooed and reached for the gleaming sword. "No, baby, no, no!" The mother turned away. "Don't you think you could be persuaded?" With his sword, the dragoon flicked a few hairs off the baby's head. The baby began to cry. The cobbler's wife sank to her knees, protecting the baby's head with her body. Yes, I'll do it. Don't hurt my child." She choked over the words. "Then you are voluntarily seeking to have your child baptized in the Catholic Church?" The dragoon turned his sword over and over. The woman's shoulders heaved as she nodded. "Take her to the church," the leader commanded. 2 dragoons escorted the weeping woman through the archway. The captain had watched the scene with folded arms and a look of haughty contempt. "For my part, I would kill them all. God will know his own," he spoke to the tax collector. "Mark down 1 conversion and 1 baptism." The tax collector opened his record book and made the marks. 39 million people in France, he said in a conversational tone. 650,000 are Protestant. We shall soon convert them all. The leader of the dragoons walked briskly past the waiting Huguenots. "Are the rest of you ready to be converted?" No one replied. "What are your orders, sir?" the dragoon asked. With an air of weariness, the captain shrugged. "We need women to cook and wash for us. They'd better go home and get busy." Once again, the word dragonade passed through the congregation. "What does that word mean, Mother?" Henri asked. "It means soldiers will come and stay at our house. A lot of them could stay with us. Our house is so big." "Hush." The captain surveyed the Huguenots. He stood with feet apart and hands on hips. "The tax collector will assign the best houses for quartering the dragoons." Afterward, the Huguenots moved toward the archway. The dragoons let them by. "You go on home," Father said to Mother. "I'll arrange to go to the port." He turned to the mayor. "I have some cargo that would interest you, if you would like to come to the port with me. Luxury items from Spain. Gold goblets and jewels for your wife would be interested in. Under the circumstances, I could let you have them quite cheap." The mayor's face lighted up. "Why, yes, Monsieur Lebrun. I'd like to see them." Mother, Othalie, and the 3 boys started home. As they passed the bakery shop, Pierre heard a low call. Alec beckoned from the side door. He loaded 3 long loaves of bread into Pierre's arms and 3 more into Claude's. "If there's any trouble, get word to me." He closed the door without a sound. Once home, Mother and Othalie began supper preparations. The 3 boys helped pare and dice a mountain of vegetables. It seemed only a little while before the command came. "Open in the name of the king!" Shouting and singing, the dragoons poured through the gateway. Pierre watched from the corner of the house. "You don't need a gate," they said, and with grunts and heaves they dislodged the gate and ruined the lock. "Oh, madame," Ottilie said, "it's a whole regiment." She knelt on the floor with her arms around Henri. "Stand up, Ottilie," Mother said. "We must be calm." The captain and the tax collector came inside first. Pierre followed them and went to stand with Claude, who had not budged from the kitchen when the dragoons had stormed into the yard. "A fine large house you have here, madame." The captain looked at a name in the record book. "Madame Lebrun. We have you down for 10. How many could you conveniently quarter?" Mother hesitated. 10 would be the maximum. The captain walked through the house and back. 10 could sleep right here in the front room. I'll put you down for 20. Ottilie's lips quivered. "But that's impossible." Her distress left the captain unmoved. "Things are different now. Many impossibilities are going to be quite possible. Go ahead with supper. The men are hungry." A messenger ran in, calling for the captain. "The Duke says Huguenots are leaving La Rochelle by the hundreds. No one has seen them go, but their houses are vacant." The captain strode up and down in a fury. "What fools they are! Don't they know we have orders to kill anyone trying to get away?" Still fuming, the captain left with the tax collector. The dragoons started coming into the house. One stopped to read the inscription over the front door. "Une foi, un loi, un roi," he said in a loud voice. "We'll have to drink to that. One faith, one law, one king. We'll make this motto come true." The dragoons roamed over the house, exclaiming as they pawed over the fine furnishings. One almost fell downstairs carrying a hand-carved cradle with a gabled roof. "Baby in this house?" "No," Mother said. "Good. My wife will like this." Pierre remembered the chest with the guns. To his relief, it was empty. Father had taken the guns to the port. One of the dragoons picked up the family Bible and psalter from the mantel. "You won't need these any more." He burned them in the fireplace. "What's this?" someone asked, taking down a hank of unspun flax from the wall. "What's it doing up there?" "It signifies that this house will never lack what future generations need," Mother explained. 2 dragoons were quarreling over the tapestry. One was taking it off the wall, and the other grabbed it. "This is mine. First come, first served," one said. "Let's shoot dice for it." Agreed. They got down on their hands and knees. Other dragoons came to watch. 2 or 3 tried to run the spinning wheel. Soon the heavy cranks were out of order. At least they did not stay long in the kitchen. Ottilie, with housewifely pride, defied them all. "If you want something to eat, stay out of here." She stamped her foot. "If you bother me, you'll get no food." Pierre had never heard her so angry. To escape her tongue-lashing, the dragoons stumbled over themselves getting out of the kitchen. Mother kept Henri right by her all the time. Pierre and Claude tried to keep out of the dragoons' way, but they could not resist watching and listening to them. One of the dragoons found Pierre's schoolbooks. He beckoned to the boys. "Here, read this to me." Pierre reached for the book, but the dragoon shoved it in front of Claude, who hung back. "You read it." Claude looked at the dragoon, a stricken expression crossing his face. He shook his head. "I said read this." "I can't read." Claude tried to smile. "Can't read? You live in a fine house like this and can't even read? Haven't you gone to school?" "No." "I have," Pierre said, hoping it would help. "Never mind about you. What's your name?" he asked Claude. "Claude." "Claude who?" Claude stammered a reply. "Arnaud." "Relation of the Lebruns?" "No." The dragoon thumped his musket on the floor. "Say, here's a kid that doesn't even belong to the family," he said in a loud voice. The others quieted. "A runaway Huguenot, huh?" Claude squirmed. "Didn't you hear what we do to runaways?" "Yes, but—" Another dragoon called out, "Make a convert of him. That'll be one more for the record." The dragoon drew out a cross and attached it to the muzzle of his musket. "Kiss the cross, Claude." "No." The dragoon forced Claude, step by step, back to the wall. Pierre looked on, weak with horror, not knowing what would happen and powerless to help. "Kiss the cross!" The musket tip touched Claude's face. He could not move. Pierre turned away sobbing at the unbearable sight.